At least we got some Choso stuff. Like, it's funny because, like, with these fights, I was actually way more interested in Choso against Naoya versus, Yuji and Yuta. Like, obviously, Yuta coming back was, like, big hype, but, like, I didn't really see Yuji putting up that much of a battle against Yuta. Like, I feel like you would have to have at least a couple more characters in there to even have, like, a level of chance against him. I've talked to people before about it, and it's like, okay, if he had Toto, granted, I don't think Toto and Yuji together could beat Yuta, but I think they would stand like at least a stand somewhat of a chance where they can mess with him. Like, Yuta definitely doesn't just like he doesn't fight like all out from the start, clearly, but he he's not as outright crazy as like Satoru is, as like Satoru's base abilities was like infinity. He's got his color spatial abilities and his immeasurable void and whatnot. But he's just hard to deal with from the base kind of like layer of like his abilities and stuff. Yuta, like, he's gonna have a lot of stuff that we don't know about, we haven't seen yet, but as of like what he's shown, he doesn't just pull stuff out. He doesn't go crazy from the start. So like with them, I was like, if they had like those two duoed, then that could at least like put up somewhat of a fight where it's like Yuji by himself. No, not really. I didn't really see it, and it's like I didn't expect Sukuna to come out at any point. So for their fight, like I really just assumed it was gonna be a short scuffle, and then Yuta obviously being Yuta, but Choso and Naoya had much more of my interest because like Choso, I think Choso's cool. I like him as a character. I'm not really sure what the plan is like with him in the long run because I don't see his character being. I don't really see like that realistic of a road of redemption for him because of the fact that he was like casually just murdering civilians just to mess with Satoru to try and like get like the cursed people's plan. And granted, he's a cursed person. Like, it's weird because obviously he's both flesh and curse because of the way that his whole story works and how he got his body and whatnot. But he's still like from the human standpoint, it's like I don't really know why I would really want to trust him. He's got his memories messed with because of Yuji's abilities and stuff. But at the same time, like, you'd have to do a lot in order to make his character believable of like hanging out with other characters beyond Yuji. We know Yuji's case is different, but like once Yuji ends up getting back with like other like main cast members like Megumi and stuff, I just don't really see what reason they would have to trust Choso unless it's just like they can tell that his personality has just shifted because of Yuji stuff. I don't really know if it's something like that where he's practically like a new guy. Like he still has his personality and stuff to a degree, but it's like just because of Yuji stuff, maybe it tweaked it enough that he's not gonna be a psycho anymore. But we'll see exactly where that goes. And then now, like he's definitely like a jerk. Like, personality wise, he's not likable, but he's cool from a bad guy's perspective. Because if somebody's a bad guy, you have to look at him from a bad guy's side. Like, just because they're mean, they say a lot of rude stuff, and they personally aren't likable from a realistic standpoint. You got to gauge it from a bad guy's standpoint, And so far with him, I think he's been doing pretty good from the bad guy side, and he's putting up a cool fight. I really am looking forward to seeing more of his abilities because that's the one that Naobito used, and like Jujutsu Kaisen has a couple of techniques that are really hard to kind of just grasp how they work. Naobito's still to me is like the hardest one for me to kind of just try to figure out how it works. Like, it took me a while to like grasp like all of Satoru's abilities just because his are really weird if you don't read the description of if you don't have like a good description of them. Like, I know that Akutami has given more in depth kind of like going into it in like extra material and like volumes and stuff because his powers are just very weird, especially in comparison to a lot of like most character powers in the series don't have a really complex ability. For the most part, a lot of them are pretty normal. Like, not like you can just kind of like think about them in like a sentence and you get them, but like people like Naobito and now Naoya, Yuji, or not Yuji, Satoru and stuff. Very, very weird powers. And I know there's a couple others that I'm just not remember off the top of my head that just have weird abilities. It'd be like trying to figure out the full scale of Toto's without having the description. Because like he can switch stuff, but then we found out like he doesn't have to. Like, it's not even limited to just allies, and it can go up to just like things. Like when he's describing it, it can literally just be with rocks and stuff. It's essentially anything around him, he can just teleport. He can, switch spots between them. But Naobito also being fast, like we get a lot of really good just outright choreographed fights. We know that Choso is using his flowing red scale, which is just like a general. It's just like a general buff kind of thing. He's got faster reactions. He seems faster in general, and I personally just think he's got a general level of increased strength and stuff. And I really like the moment after Naobito stabbed him that you see like blood spurting out and then it just stops because he's a blood manipulating guy, so somebody like him should never really have to deal that much with blood loss. But one of the things about it that like also is a thing, I wish Naobito was a little bit smarter with this, but granted I'm looking at it from like the standpoint of somebody who's seen powers and stuff from multiple series where he wouldn't see that. He would only know a handful of powers from his world, whereas like I've seen it from tons of different series and stuff. But it's like on top of like a blood manipulator, obviously being able to stop the the flow of their blood areas so they don't have a lot of blood loss. More blood means more of an arsenal for them, and you see like a lot of the blood that came out of him, and he's just kind of like dripping it down and creating like this big torrent of area around him. And there's a description about it, and essentially because he's not really human, like he's like a weird, just like a cursed person. I think it's the easiest way to go about it. That they're able to essentially convert cursed energy into blood, so he can't really die of blood loss at all as long as he's got cursed energy, which is cool. It's kind of like how Mahito can't really be defeated from non-soul based attacks as long as he's got cursed energy. As long as he's got cursed energy to just mutate his body back into his soul and stuff, then he's fine. You have to have soul damage to defeat him in a regular sense. Unless you have something that goes outright to how his power works and stuff, then you're in a dangerous spot. And like now, again, he's very interesting in his general way of like how he presents himself, because he's talking about like he doesn't like that sorcerers and stuff would use weapons, but he's got a knife on him, and he's like, my older brothers, the way that they show off their weapons and stuff. It's pathetic, and he's like, I'm amazed they complained about Toji, and that's like a really interesting just kind of sentence right there, because it is very true. Like Toji didn't have any cursed energy and stuff, but we know like he had the general enhanced abilities across the board. But he was like a weapons master. He was amazing with cursed tools and just weapons all around. So them complaining about somebody who's just superior to them, even without cursed energy and stuff, it is in itself kind of like a funny, like a level of irony from them. But he's like being a bit of a jerk, he's like, oh, big brothers who are inferior to the little brothers are useless and stuff, they should just hang themselves and die. And Choso has like a really good mindset, at least from like the standpoint of his brothers. It's like how there's a line from Ichigo on Bleach that I always really liked when he says like, older brothers are born first to like keep an eye out and protect like their younger siblings. And it's just like a really nice way of looking at your position as the oldest. And that's how Choso is. Like he's like, regardless of if you're a good older brother or a bad older brother, you are a role model for your younger siblings, because it's like if you do something good and they can see it, then they know that that's like a good path to follow. Whereas if you do something bad and screw up, they know to avoid going down that way. And I thought that was just really cool for him. And he's like, that's why I'm strong. He's like, I gotta walk ahead of my younger brothers. Like the way that he views his role, again, is really cool. I like that. And again, he's a likable character, but from the standpoint of like hanging out with like other, I don't want to say good guys, but like there are just generally good people in Jujutsu Kaisen on the human side. But it's like, how is he going to be around certain characters when he himself was like killing people like casually, like it wasn't even a big deal? Because you got to look at how they should react to that at the same time. But he's ends up luring now into one of his attacks. He has like this big wave of blood, and then he rushes around, goes for his piercing blood. But his piercing blood is just it's just a feint. I do really like how it looks when he's using it. It shoots out like the arrow, but after that point, when it gets in the wall and he's moving it, it looks almost like a laser beam. How it's just cutting through stuff. I thought that was really badass. But he's actually prepping up his supernova, and that that really just big ass blast attack. Get blood all around, and then he can just use that at will on top of like the general just huge blood shrapnel. And then, unfortunately for him, Yuta shows up and just completely bodies him like he's nothing. And that's not surprising. Again, Yuta we know is a big deal. We know Yuta sits very high in their world. Like, Satoru has compared him to himself. And this is him only after, what, like a year? Like, personally, I think he has the potential to far surpass Satoru. Because Satoru is strong, and he's got these two abilities. But it's like, Yuta is so high up without having, all these sacred powers that only come once every 1,000 years. We don't know exactly, like, his full deal. I'm really hoping we find out more about him in general, of just, like, what makes him this absurdly powerful. I know they've mentioned in Volume 0 that he's, like, a near endless well of cursed energy, but I'm wondering if he has some form of ability from ancient times, or if it's just his full level of just massive cursed energy that lets him spread to such a dangerous amount that he, that he's at this level. Again, just if there's more to him than what we know, if there's anything else special about him, maybe if he is also similar to, like, somebody that lived a long time ago, but I like that he's not part of any of the clans and stuff. He's just his own guy, and he's frightening. I really like his character. He's really cool. I read Volume 0. Actually, I don't remember what year it was, but it was a long time ago. I remember when I was, like, rereading some stuff, because I think it was around the 40s or 50s is when I decided to read it, and then there's that panel at the start of, I think, chapter 32 that shows him hanging out with that African sorcerer guy, and I was just like, oh, that's who that is. Like, I didn't remember until I reread part of it, and then, after reading Volume 0, I was able to connect them. Because, like, if you don't read Volume 0 and you see stuff about Yuta, he's not one of those characters that you super bookmark as, like, somebody to just memorize every single moment with him, because he's hype, but it's like, oh, well, that's just probably hyping up. Pay attention to when he actually shows up, but he actually is in Volume 0, and you do get a taste of him in there, and then see, like, how big of a deal he is, and he's actually a really cool dude. But anyway, I personally like him more than Yuji, but that's just my opinion. Yuji's definitely a very likable guy, but Yuta just is looking crazy, and I don't know what it is. I think one of the things I like about him, and, like, his outfit in this, like, new one, because I'm full view of him, obviously, in this panel, but, like, he just looks like some chef that's had a bad day. I think it's just, like, the way that his shirt looks. He just, for some reason, I just think of a chef. And he had a long day at work, messed something up. He's just been getting screwed over lately. Probably, like, had his hours all fucked with. And he's just trying to move on. But here he casually just strolls up like he doesn't give a shit. And with, pulling on Yuji, and then just bops Choso on the side of the head. And he's like, hey, now you look like you're not doing too well. I thought that was pretty funny, but at the same time, like, hype for this dude. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below. Like, it was a very fast to read. And I think it was also, like, a lot faster to talk about, because it was more of, like, Choso's character, and then, just a very, very aggressive interference for their fight when it looked like he almost won. Well, he pretty much did win against Nalia. There's no way that, at least, there's no way that he won, or that he wouldn't have won unless Nalia pulled out, like a territory, like, or, it's been so long, like a domain expansion, and Choso wouldn't have one unless you can, like, were able to pull up, like, a trump card like that. I don't really see how he would have beaten Choso after that supernova. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below, thumbs up the video, friend the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everyone's already subscribed. Thank you all for listening. Bye.